All right, welcome back to Men's Couch, the podcast on men's mental health, and I'm here with Pastor Herb Tillman. And today we're going to discuss some things. We're going to discuss forgiveness and how that relates to relationships and what forgiveness actually is.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Glad that you took out the time to, or even asked me to come on. That's quite an
yeah,
honor. Thank you very
I'm
much.
excited. So I guess I can talk about what kind of like what I got from your workshop. That was very powerful, and that it it touched on a lot of issues for me because for me I do I think like I do struggle with the concept of forgiveness
Okay.
and being able to um like what is like the actual process of forgiveness, like what does that involve? And I think that relates to that relates a lot to mental health. And we,
Mhm.
even though we don't like see it that way, because we see forgiveness as over here, mental health is over here. But like
Right.
if you like hold on to that bitterness, and if you hold on to that weighs on you over time.
It really does. It really
Yeah,
does. And before you actually get to forgiveness or unforgiveness, it's like a seed that's got to be planted.
yeah,
And a lot of times, what we do is we allow that seed to develop, and it begins to, before you see it on the surface, it's
hmm,
actually developed roots. And so those roots
yeah,
begin to go out into the undergirding part of our life, things that you can't see.
hmm,
And it begins to grab hold of rocks. And the more you begin to think of the problem area, what made you angry, the triggers, it begins to water it. So that's what's known as a root of bitterness. And so you're
yes,
not actually affecting the person that you're because the seed is in you.
yeah,
And that's the concept we don't really get. We think the seed is in them and I'm holding something against them and it's affecting them somehow, but the seed is actually in you. So it's actually rooted and grounded in you. So in order to actually deal with it, sometimes we attack it from the top. We cut it off like it's a lawnmower. We just go right over top of it and try to deal with what happened. Okay, I'm going to forget about it. It's under the rug.
that's
I'm going to
not,
let it go.
yeah. I tried to do that before, but that's
Yeah,
not really
it
good.
doesn't work
It
because
doesn't.
the roots are still there. That's the
Yeah,
problem. The roots are still there. And eventually you start thinking about it again. And
hmm,
then it starts to re-nurture and that same weed starts to pop back up again. And sometimes when you try to cut off the top, now it's become too, it begins to multiply. So
oh
we
yeah,
have
because
this
the
issue. And the
roots.
only way you got to unroot it. You got to pull
Yeah,
the whole thing up. And that's what forgiveness does. It actually grabs hold of what's rooted and you're able to pull the whole thing out of your system.
yeah, yeah. I like that you mentioned roots because that, like, for me, sorry. So for me, it's um, you're when you kind of like forget about something, or you say like, well, this isn't doesn't affect me anymore. I feel like you're kind of disconnected from the effect of it,
Hmm.
and you kind of like you don't realize that what happened in the past, it still does impact you. You just
Yep.
you just you don't see it. You don't like so I guess like for example, like in your something happened like I guess in a past relationship or something, and you're kind of holding on to what that person did, and you're still like struggling with forgiveness, but you're not able to trust other people. That affects your ability to have fruitful relationships.
That's quite true. That is quite true.
Yeah.
It not only, again, affects you, it affects everything in your future from that point on. So it necessitates you being able to unroot it, dig it up, go back
Hmm.
into the past. I don't know if you ever saw the movies back years ago. I think it might have been out in the 80s, Back to the Future.
Yeah, my dad talks about that a lot.
So, yeah,
I don't think
one of the greatest movies.
see, I don't think I watched it. He talked about it, but like I don't know if I watched it because I feel like it's a movie I probably did watch, but just like because it's so popular, you feel like you watched it. I don't know, maybe I
Yeah.
didn't.
Well, just to sort of summarize it real quick, if you ever finally get to the second one, it's I think one of the ones that really would identify where we are now. There comes a point where Marty, um, the protagonist in the story, he decides to purchase a almanac, from the
Mm-hmm.
future. And says, well, I'm going to take it from the future and I'm going to go back with it in the past. I'm going to place a few bets because he's in the future. He can see who's going to win. So there's no way he
Yeah.
could ever lose. And so that was
Yeah.
his point. And the other guy that was along with the scientist tells him, you can't do that. You don't know what you're going to change even in your future by manipulating something in your past. You're going to throw something
Yeah.
off, fix
Yeah.
it. And so what happens is he says, okay, I'm going to do it. Well, there happens to be an antagonist in the story, an old version of a bully to his father, that was from the past. He overhears their conversation. He finds the almanac and he gives it to himself as a young person in the past. So when
Mm.
they do go back to the past, everything has changed. And now
Yeah.
the guy's name was Biff. So now when Biff now has this particular book as a young person, he's placing all these bets. And so now he's strong, he's mighty, he's powerful. Well, just to get to the end of where I'm going with this, Doc, who's the one who has the future driven machine, he says, look, the only way you can fix this is you got to go back in the future, go back to the past before Biff gives it to himself, and
Mm-hmm.
then you're able to root it out. You're going to have to destroy it in the past, and once you destroy it in the past, it'll change everything in the future, our current future, and
Interesting.
should put everything back. So in essence, that's what the whole storyline was, but that's what happens with us as well.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to revisit the past, but in order to heal the past, you need to be able to go back to what happened,
Oh my
and you have
gosh,
to
that's
face
so
it.
like that's so
Okay.
true. But like, and I'm kind of like accepting that more recently. That, like, that's so true. Like, you have to deal with your past to heal
Yes,
the present and to be a stronger person in the future. And I feel like I don't know. I don't know if it's I guess in our modern circles we're always like, oh, just forget about it, forgive and forget. The past is in the past, but like the past can be so useful.
it is. It is. It's not dead. It's not gone. The past is still very much so alive because it's a part of you. It's what makes you who you are. And some people will say, well, if I can go back to the past, I could change some things. But whatever
Hmm.
you change in the past also alters everything in the future. So everything that makes you, who you are today, will also be altered in your future. So you really don't want to go back and change anything, but you do need to
Yeah.
face some things.
Yeah, you have
You
to
do
face
need
it
to
because like
confront some things in the past to get you out of that place of negativity. I call it like a
yeah,
car. You're either in park, neutral, or reverse, and you
yeah,
can't seem to go forward. You can't put it in
yeah.
drive because you're still parked. You go into depression. You're neutral. I let everything happen
Mm.
to me. It's frustrating me. Or now you're actually in reverse where you're just going backwards and you're regressing.
You're saying
So
saying in the past.
yes, you're
Yeah.
staying there instead of trying. You're trying to go forward, but you can't. So most of us, and it sounds like what you may have been dealing with as well. Most of us tried to drive in reverse,
Yeah.
and you can't
Yeah.
do it because you're
Yeah.
you're constantly you're trying to go forward. You got the car moving, but you're still going back. You're still thinking, so it's still in
That's also
control,
kind
taking
of
you back.
that's dangerous on a road.
Yes.
It's
Yes. So
also
you're going to
can
wreck.
be like
You're going
it's
to
also
crash.
like dangerous spiritually and emotionally too. It's just
Exactly.
I feel like for me, I'm the type of person that will want to go in the past and want to fix it, but that's not the past happened, and the way that I've been dealing with it is to just have grace for the past and the past and use the past as a healing part of your healing story because there's a lot of stuff I did in the past that I'm like, what was I doing? I don't know. I I went to places I never thought I would ever go. I said things I never thought I'd ever say. So it's just I popped off on somebody. You have those, but like it's at the same time, it's also important that to not go back and try to like, what can I do to like edit this? It's gonna keep you, in the past. It's gonna because the past happened, but is I think we have to accept that things are different in the present. I feel like sometimes we also like we definitely need to like face the past, but we don't have to carry the past with us, if that makes sense.
Right, right, right. That's the deal. You don't have to carry it with you, but you do need to again face it by
Yeah.
releasing the things that have happened in the past. Like your generation would say the same thing. I'm sweeping it under the rug.
Yeah.
Well, it's still there. It's still under the rug, and it's sort of waiting for an unveiling. And so, in the most inopportune time, it's going to come back. Like you were saying before,
Mhm.
sometimes you can have trust issues with people that you
Mhm.
encounter because they seem to remind you of something that happened in the past. So now there's a
Or like
trigger.
or when you pop off from somebody or you say
Mhm,
stuff or you you have
mhm,
like an angry outburst or something, it's like that's also the past because it's like you're not dealing with stuff in your heart that um kind of weeds its way in to like the present situation.
exactly. And that
So
person
yeah.
had nothing to do with what happened.
No,
However,
that's
they pushed the trigger. And
yeah,
once
that's a
that trigger
trigger.
is pushed, you end up going off. So you're not only just trying to pull those weeds out, you're also trying to make yourself triggerless. You
Yeah.
want to get to a place where nothing any longer affects you, where
Mhm.
you are in control. You can't control somebody else. The only one you can control is you.
Yeah, I think
So
it's
you
that's
have to
it's
change your
important.
outlook. It's
Yeah.
extremely important. You have to be able to talk to yourself because the
Mhm.
situation is talking to you.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so it's a lot deeper than we think. You
Yeah.
have to talk to it. You because what the experience was is going to tell you how to respond, and we generally respond, and we think it's our voice, but it's other
Mhm.
voices of your past or whatever happened to try to protect you. So
Yeah.
you're in essence trying to protect yourself, but those voices of reason can sometimes take you out of where you need to be to really be healthy going
Mhm.
forward and us trying to protect ourselves. So you need to be able to speak about what happened in here, talk to yourself, sort of like the example I gave to you guys about me, how I handled the depression that
In
I
a
was
bathroom?
facing. Yes,
Yeah.
and I guess for those who don't know about it, I'll just share that quickly. I
Yeah.
was in a place of depression, and even though I thought I was dealing with it, my friends could tell, as well as my worker, my supervisor, who was a good friend of mine as well. He could tell I was different. I wasn't acting like myself, and so here
Mhm.
I am, like a robot, going through life handling stuff, and they're like, "No, something's wrong with you. We're used to seeing you smile and joking, and something's going on." And I'm in denial. So that's one of
Mhm.
the things that will happen to you too. You'll say, "No, I'm good, man. Everything is cool," and then you start getting mad at the person because you're trying to tell you there's something wrong with you, and I'm telling you there's nothing wrong with me. And
Yeah.
okay, okay, but when you finally, I had to finally come to a grips and say, "Okay, there is something that's there, and I need to do something with it." And when I
Mhm.
finally did, I finally stopped and I said, "No, wait a minute. You're right. Give me a minute. Give me some time." And I walked to the men's bathroom, went into the locker room. Nobody was in there, and that was the good thing. I shut the
Mhm.
door and I had a talk to myself. I
Yeah.
went to a
Yeah.
major discussion. I started fussing at myself. I started telling myself, "Get it together, get it together. Why are you acting like this? You need to be in
Yeah.
control rather than letting the thing control you." And I
Mhm.
revisited my past while I was in there. I started talking about what happened to me, and I brought it back and said it wasn't as bad as you think. You're making a molehill into a mountain.
Mhm.
You've got to regain who you are and not be manipulated by what you saw. Now get it together. And I said, now when you
Mm.
walk out this door, you're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
When you walk out this door, the old you is gonna be back. Are we clear? Otherwise, we need to sit in here a little bit longer and get this thing together. It was wild. I'm having this full conversation, blown conversation with myself. And I said, okay, I'm good. And I said, okay. And then it was like I was saying, okay, let's go. And we walked
Mhm.
outside. And now here I am still talking to myself in a pluralistic. So here we walked outside and I walked back to the lab and I was good. I was me again. And I told my friends, okay, I'm back. We're good. And they could see.
Yeah.
They were like, what
Yeah.
happened? I said, I need to deal with some issues.
Yeah, because you know, you it's kind of and it's also like kind of symbolic because you like went I guess like the bathroom, you can see the bathroom as like the past in a way. You went back to the past and you know, I'm just gonna deal with stuff, I'm gonna face it head on,
Mm-hmm.
deal with like the pain, the anger and all that stuff. And then when you came back out, it's like this is like this for the new me. This is like who I actually am. who I'm called to be, and it's not so buried underneath of all that pain and all that depression and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. I had to find that place to just let it go. I had to
Yeah.
release it because I realized it's hurting me. It's not hurting. I'm not proving anything to anybody else by holding on to something that I know I needed to release. And
Mhm.
that's what unforgiveness does. It causes you to feel secure. It causes you to feel like it's a cushion to keep everybody away from me. I'm protecting me. I'm not going to let you into this circle. Just give me my space. I'll give you your space and we'll all be happy. We'll all get along. And we kind of create these bars around ourselves. And even though we might think, okay, this is something women will go through, no, men go through it as well. We're just very
Oh yeah.
secretive. We just don't want
Yeah.
to tell anybody about it. So we have these hidden things inside of us that you're a man, act like a man. So we got these
Mhm.
professional actors going around carrying stuff, trying to play tough guy, when in
Yeah.
reality you're like a little boy that's still driving at the helm and
Mhm.
controlling you and telling you what you're going to do. So the little boy inside of you is the thing that needs to be confronted.
Mhm. But I think it shows up for men a lot is anger.
Yes. Yep. That's
Like
the initiation. You're going to see anger, but it diverges into all kinds of different areas. So
yeah.
it can become unforgiveness. It can become depression. It can
Mhm.
become disparity of life. It can become, so it can, those are all the roots. It can
Mhm.
become bitterness. So now you have a root of bitterness. So it becomes all these different roots. They also, it's not one root. That's why it's important. You got to root it out. You got to
Yeah.
get rid of the anger. And I told you that there were those 5 steps. The last step that we all have to get to for healing or wholeness is acceptance.
Yeah.
You have to accept what happened to you because you're going to have the shock. You're going to have
Mhm.
denial. You're going to go through bargaining. No, no, they
Mhm.
didn't. I can't believe they did this. Okay, if it happened like this. And so you're going back and forth with yourself. And finally, it just goes to anger. And that's
Mhm.
where anger goes off into all these different areas. It gets rooted. That's when the seed gets planted. And you need to uproot it as quickly as possible before it has
Yeah.
take a foothold.
Yeah. Because kind of like we said earlier, is that it shows up like it shows up in a lot of ways. Whether like anger or just like addiction. 'Cause I feel like a lot of men like a lot of like for us it's like anger or addiction and
Mhm.
that stuff that all that stuff that we carry with us, especially like from childhood or just like anything that we carry with us that for men we don't like really I feel like we don't really deal with it. We kind of just say or act like it doesn't affect us.
Exactly.
But and I don't like this is like kind of like my assumption. I feel like women might be more equipped to deal with like the emotional um aspect of a situation, like whether they've been hurt or stuff like that. But we just say like, okay, like that didn't hurt me or that
Mhm.
you know, like whatever.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
take it like a man. Take it like a man.
Yeah.
It's how we convince ourselves that as a man, don't deal with it. Just
Mhm.
keep going. Just for now, women, because they are more emotional, and men and women think differently. I mean,
Mhm.
as a man, we think logically. If
Yeah.
I put this in place, if I get this job, if I'm with this friend, then this will. So we kind of put all the pieces together in our head that way. Women are more like I guess their thought process is emotional. So it's like spaghetti. This thing touches this thing, touches that thing, touches that thing.
Mhm.
And so you don't know where it started or where it ends. It's just all over the place. And women sitting down with another woman, they get it. Honey, come
Mhm.
on, let's hug. Men aren't
Yeah.
going to do that. We're like, don't come near me.
Yeah.
We're going to keep silent. We don't. So we have a silent struggle.
Oh, that's wow, that's a good description. Silent struggle's good.
Yeah. So until we get somebody that I feel I can trust or be vulnerable with, that you're not going
Mhm.
to think less of me as a man. You're not going to make me think that I'm a wuss. I'm a woman. You're not going to.
Mhm.
So I'm going to find somebody who's not going to judge me. That's when I finally will open up.
Mhm.
Like a lot of times we will go to a pastor because we'll feel okay. They're not going to judge me. so they'll
Mhm.
listen and hear me out. Or you might go to your dad, depending upon what your relationship with him actually is. Now, if your
Mhm.
dad is how to deal with stuff he's been dealing with, he'll just come off and say, "Man, just grow up. Just
And I feel like
look."
a lot of it starts there, starts with
Hmm.
our relationship with our fathers. Is that it starts with, um, is he able to deal with things,
Hmm.
and not only that, but like I feel like we also carry like a lot of stuff like with our dads, whether it be like maybe how he didn't show up or whatever,
Right.
and we carry that sense of maybe unforgiveness or like undealt with stuff that
Right.
affects a lot of stuff.
It does. It
Yeah.
really does, because when you look back, you can be really angry at your father because he wasn't there for you when you felt you needed him the most. But what we've failed to do, looking at that going forward, is we don't try to put ourselves in their shoes. What was he
Mm-hmm.
juggling? What was he dealing with? What were the pressures he was trying to do? Because he's out there either trying to conquer the world. He's definitely trying to provide a lifestyle for the family and trying to support everything. So I can't do that and be home to play ball with you at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of fathers will come back with that rationale and will say, that's why I didn't do it. But in your eyes, you're saying, but I needed you and you weren't
Yeah,
there.
it's like this still hurt. This still like So
Yep.
it's just when we when we carry that like that so we still carry that with us even though we don't even though it's like kind of under the surface.
Hmm.
So yeah.
It is. It's under the surface, and it's something that still needs to be, I'm going to say, dealt with. That you just have that talk. It's a, I just want to talk. Dad, just hear me out. I just want to talk right now and just let you know what I'm feeling. But going forward, can we maybe start doing this? Can we start? So come up with ideas instead of just saying, you hurt me, you ruined me. It was like, I can't go back to fix that. I can say, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Apologize, but going forward, what can we do? Can we maybe plan on doing a movie together as
Hmm.
father? Do we want to go out to lunch? Um, you want to sit down and just pick my brain a little bit and see what made me me.
Hmm.
Just to sort of get it, try to again put yourself in their shoes, and that helps you kind of see their decision making, why they deal with it. So it's not personal, because
Hmm.
coming up when you're hurting, you feel like he doesn't love me. He
Hmm.
doesn't care about, when he's actually thinking, especially fathers my age, in my era from the baby boomer time, we would have felt like, well, I am showing you that I love you by what I'm doing.
Hmm.
I'm you. I left the home because I wanted to. I did it because I
Yeah.
had to.
Yeah.
That's why I was away all the time, so that you could have food on the table, so you could have clothes on your back, so you could have. You probably heard that story. A roof over
Uh-huh.
your head, so you could have all
Yeah.
those. When you become a
Yeah.
man, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
feel
get
like
that kind of thing.
Yeah. Also, this is kind of off topic, but I didn't like you mentioned like how long you've been in your relationship. I didn't know you were that old. You just didn't like. I thought you were like much younger.
Well, thank you.
I guess black don't crack.
Yep, yep,
Black don't
exactly.
crack.
Got to take care of yourself, and that's what
Yeah.
I've done for years, really taking care of myself. So,
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think as Christians, it's difficult when it comes to the topic of forgiveness. Like we know we have to do it, but we like what is that process? What does that look like? And I think my friend the other day when you were at we were at the workshop, like he kind of
mhm,
asked like how does that practically look like in like different contexts. And I think it's difficult because everyone has a different situation of like okay we forgive that person, but like what how do we go about our day and like how do we like and also like what how do we actually go through the process of forgiveness? Like for me it's writing it down what that
okay,
person did and like having like a prayer. I have a prayer journal and writing it down because for me that's healing, and like maybe for
yes,
others it might be like talking to somebody or it's like a lot of ways.
you got to find your way to connect. And that's how you're
Mm-hmm.
revisiting. That's your way of going to the past. So you're actually going back to the past and you're writing down exactly what happened. That's your way of, the hand is powerful. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
we need to take notes and write things down, because it's reinforcing what you're putting on that paper to your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember that's one of the first things I was telling us. You might want to get out a pen and paper, because that's the only way you're going to remember
Yeah.
what we're talking about. You'll remember triggers and things. Okay, I remember 15% of your presentation, but if you wrote it down, you got a good chance of remembering now 50 to 75% of what I said, or
Mm-hmm.
whomever is speaking. So it's always good to have that pen and paper, because you never know, that one idea can change your whole life.
Yeah.
One idea could shift everything. And sometimes we'll sit in these circles and just kind of chill and just take it all in, and you'll miss the moment. So you
Yeah.
got to find out what's going to work for you. You said writing it down would be you. That's your
Mm-hmm.
thing. Somebody else might say confrontation. You don't want to be confrontational, but you do need to confront whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is. No matter what, you got to visit it. And that gets back to the movie thing I was talking about, Back to the Future. You got to face your Biff. You got
Yeah.
to go to where it happened, where the exchange took place, and try to rip that thing out of his hand so you can get your future back to normal. So where you currently are can move peaceably into the next stage in your life. Without
Wow.
doing that, you're going to be in trouble.
Are you gonna be stuck?
Yep. You're going to be
Yeah.
stuck dealing with what happened to you. In the Bible, you'll see in, what was it, Ephesians chapter 5, it talks about anger, really, and
Mm-hmm.
God tells us how to deal with it. Paul says, let not the sun go down on your wrath.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's speaking from just do it. He doesn't tell you why. Now, today, and what we're doing today, we're trying to pick it apart and try to figure out, why do I need to do that? But Paul says, God just says, do this and you'll be
Mm-hmm.
okay. The problem with, and here's what I found out why you need to do that. When you don't do it, it's like you're out in the middle of an ocean. I'm going to call it the ocean of life,
Mm-hmm.
and you're cut, but you have your hand in the water.
Mm-hmm.
That cut is going to attract things.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
normally it's going to attract a predator that you don't want to have connected in your life. So
Mm-hmm.
did you invite the shark to come? No, but your blood in the water did.
Yeah.
So the longer you hold on to it, you start to attract certain things that are unwelcome in your life. And now they become attracted and attached to you. So
Mm-hmm.
now you're not only dealing with you, you're dealing with something else that's attached itself to you, that's now talking to you. And the longer you hold on to it, the more embedded it becomes. And what it will start to do inside of you, in your mind, now it creates this thing called strongholds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you create these barriers, and nothing is going out and nothing is coming in. You're just you. And so
Mm-hmm.
you've got this wall of protection, and it's going to make you feel like you're protecting yourself, but in reality, you're only being controlled and manipulated.
Yeah, I also thought of like when you have that cut or that bruise in the water,
Mhm.
it also is like getting infected by everything,
Yes.
so it gets infected by a lot of stuff
Yes.
if you don't heal that. And um and that process of forgiveness, I like for me, like what I said about forgiveness is like it's a choice and it's also like a process. You go through the process of healing what happened, like you said, going back to what actually happened, like
Yes.
accepting what actually happened, and then you're processing, like for me it's like processing the emotions behind it
Mhm.
and moving forward. How can I move forward in my life and live a healthier life after the fact?
Right.
But not
Right.
that's not all in a day. It's just like, you know, I mean, I wish it was. Not gonna lie, I wish it was, but you know.
It is not going to happen right away. It really and it can happen in a day, because I just showed you how I did it in a day.
Mhm.
I went in the bathroom and came out. I was me.
Yeah.
I had another situation at work where my supervisor just a few years ago, he gave me a really unfavorable review. And
Mm.
it really wasn't me, but because my supervisor is going to turn it in, it's going to affect my salary, my merit increase, all of it's going to be affected. He's kind of like almost laughing And well, oh, go ahead, go get a cup of coffee because this isn't going to be good anyway.
Wow.
And I found myself getting really angry while I was there. In fact, I had one
Mm.
of these scenes of a flash of me just jumping up over the table and hitting him. I mean, literally, I saw myself hitting him in the nose, and his nose, he's grabbing his nose. What did you do? What did you do? And then you come back to yourself, and nothing is. I literally had that scene go off in my head, and he could
Sometimes
see
the
that
things
he's.
that we think, I don't mean to cut you off, but sometimes the things that we think is scary, like especially when it comes
Yeah,
to anger. It's like,
yeah.
it's like,
So
hold on.
I saw
Yeah.
it as a pastor. I'm seeing this happen, and I'm like, this would feel so good if I just did it. He's just sitting right in front of me, and you can do it. But
Yeah.
I'm literally thinking, okay, I got to be in control. And when we were getting ready to leave that space from in the office and where he was talking to me about it, it affected me. And we have all these glass mirrors where I worked at. So as we're walking down the
Hmm.
hall, here's one of the things that will help you to deal with it as well. Look at yourself when you're angry
Hmm.
and see if you can handle it.
Yeah.
See how far you can hold that. And so by walking past the glass, I glanced at myself and I said, that's not me.
Yeah. It's
And
like
I don't want to look like this.
like hold space for that, and like hold space and see really, like, because I feel like when we're experiencing something, we don't actually see it from the outside. We don't see
Yeah.
what's actually going on. And when you hold space for that, when you're like facing yourself in that sense, you're able to like,
Mhm.
hold on, I don't want to look like this in this situation. I don't want to, because I'll end up like hurting this person, and I don't want to do that. So
That's it.
yeah.
That's exactly it. And what I did in that moment, I looked at myself and I stopped. He kept walking down the hall, going back to his office. And I stopped. I looked at myself again up in the mirror. And in that moment, again, now I'm in the hallway, other people walking past me. So I couldn't speak out loud, but you could still talk to yourself inside. And I
Hmm.
started telling myself at that point, as I looked at me, you don't want to look like this. You don't want anybody to control you either.
Yeah.
So you can't allow what he just did, to control who you are as an individual. You got to regain control. So in that moment, I said, I will never let somebody affect me like that again. You
Hmm.
will not take away my smile. You will not take away my joy. You will not take.
Yeah.
And so I determined that. And so anytime I ran into him, he was expecting me to come in with a bad attitude. I'm
Yeah.
coming in and saying, hey, what's up? I'm calling his name. How you doing? What's happening? And I was
Right.
getting on his nerve. He was like, how can you come back after what I did? I'm
Yeah.
still,
It's
so
crazy
I was in
how that.
control. I didn't let you control me or
Yeah.
manipulate me.
Yeah, and I guess that's also what forgiveness does, is like, I'm not gonna let what you did determine what I do next or how I interact with you. I'm not gonna let that change my personality and stuff, because that's, this is who I am. I'm like, I'm not this like angry person all the time. You know, I'm not gonna let that dictate what I do and like how I interact with people.
Yep, exactly. And with the way he dealt with it, he transferred me to another
Hmm.
job. I didn't ask for the job change, but he took it because he couldn't handle me anymore just with my attitude. He couldn't control it. So he had to
Yeah.
get rid of me because he knew it was affecting him. So it was interesting that I actually began to show more power over him than the
Yeah.
reverse. And he had to somehow get rid of me. And by him moving me, it actually empowered me even more. So
Yeah.
he thought by trying to put me in a position and maybe downgraded who I was, my mindset was, you're going to have to still pay me if you want to drop me to another level. You can't take away my salary. So I still got another increase in salary. I did better because of where I was psychologically and handling everything. And in fact, I became one of the better persons in that position that he thought I was
Hmm.
going to have a problem with.
Yeah.
So you can increase in spite of your pain if you know how to root that stuff up out of you and not allow
Yeah.
it to be part of you.
And like there's a lot of empowerment that can happen when you use that pain and use that hurt for something for something good, and to for it to bear fruit. And
Exactly.
I was kind of talking to Gary about that. It's like, listen, um, I have to use this situation that I was in, and that like even like I did stuff and stuff. I have to I have to use that pain for it to bear fruit, and for it,
Yes,
like, whether that be like that builds character or hope. I have to let those things come to fruition instead of just, sitting in my pain and like, oh, why did this happen and stuff like that. I have to, you know,
that's right.
like,
That's right.
yeah, I can't do that, or else I won't be able to see the fruit that can be. I have to allow God to use that pain to make something new out of it. And
Exactly.
initially I couldn't see it that way. All I saw was like my pain of what I did to this person or what this person did to me, but uh, more recently has been, I have to allow God to use the most broken situations through forgiveness to make a new thing out of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in fact, what I use is, I don't want to call it a motto, but what I use when I do these talks and discussions is I
Mhm.
really want to teach people how to turn pressure into power.
Mhm.
I want to teach you how to take the very thing that seems to disempower you to empower you to
Yeah.
make you a better person. In essence, you're taking, if you recall the story of Joseph, and you can't get
Yes.
any worse than that. His story of what his brothers did to him and selling him into slavery, and then convinced the father that he's dead, some wild animal killed him. And they let that go on for years. But they never realized that his empowerment became his forgiving. His forgiving his
Mm.
brothers empowered him and allowed him to be able to be projected into his future. So he went from the pit to the palace because he learned how to forgive.
Yeah, like I said, that process of forgiveness, it really does, like, it might not like make you pharaoh or whatever, but like it makes you, it takes you into like the next season that you're always meant to go to. You become the person that you're always meant to be, because you're not like meant
Exactly.
to be like this, depressed, like angry, like bitter person. That like that's not who God made us to be. He made us to be more, to go back out there and be like embody who God is to people, because it's so easy to want to, like, I want to give up on humanity and all, because you get bitter, you have that stuff that gets rooted into you, but you have to allow that pain to be used to make kindness, and like I want to be compassionate to people and their pain and in their struggles, and I want to be compassionate to myself.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And as in that story, as I just brought up, he had to learn to deal with the anger because his anger was initially towards them for what they did,
Hmm.
and rightfully so. And he went through a lot of stuff, and that pain took him to the pit.
Yeah.
Even though he was accused of something he didn't do, that pain took him there. And it wasn't until he really started to deal with what happened and learn how to, well, God's got another plan. I have to release it. As he began to let it go, he then is slowly taken up out of that place and surprisingly taken to the palace. Now, when he has his firstborn son, I don't know if you know this, he named him Manasseh.
Hmm.
Look at the name Manasseh actually means cause me to forget.
Mm.
So he named his son, I'm going to say forgiveness. So
Yeah.
when he named him that, after he forgave his next son, he named him Ephraim. Ephraim means double fruitfulness. So now he's saying, I can now increase because I've let go of what the past did to me.
Yeah,
So
and
once
that's
I let go, he can move on.
yeah, there's so many blessings that can happen when we do start that process of letting go, um and just letting the past be where it is. And I think for a
Hmm.
lot of people, they're like, "Well, I still think about it. I still have like memories about that." But it's like what you do with that, and I feel like it's not about like totally wiping everything out, because we're still
Right.
human and stuff. But it's like, how am I going to allow God to use like we said, like we said before, to use those memories and those painful things to empower us and push us forward? Because
Right.
that and that's where we say, well, that's why the past is useful.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the things I try to teach now is that you need pain in order to elevate. to the next place that God's about to take you.
Wow. That's
Having friends will keep you comfortable,
yeah.
but when you actually get to a place of pain, pain will elevate you.
Yeah.
That's what you need to actually take you to the next place. So God allows the pain, but he knows the pain is going to cause you to be taken to that next level. And if you look at
Mhm.
any famous person, if you look at anybody that we emulate or, wow, I'd love to be like that, or I like to meet them, all of them had a place of hurt. All of them have a
Yeah.
story. All of them have a major past that you could actually write a movie for.
Mhm.
Um, you don't want to go through what they went through, but they needed to go through that to become what we all emulate.
Mhm.
Every one of them
Mhm.
had to deal with their past and had to say everything from slavery all the way up to now. Every one of them had a past. Every one of them have a story to deal with, but it all elevated them. Jesus had to have Judas.
Mhm.
David had to have Goliath. Moses had to have Pharaoh. Joseph had to have his brothers. Every one of them had to have something to take
Yeah.
them to that next place of elevation. So God, if you stop looking at it for what it is, then you can see it for what it can be. And in fact,
Mm.
Joseph said it best when his brothers came to him when their father died. They said, he's going to remember what we did to him, and now he's going to come after us.
Yeah.
Joseph really cried. That shows you how much he was over it. He said,
Yeah.
I told y'all I'm done with it, but they didn't believe it.
Yeah.
And he literally started crying when they sent another servant to him. Your brother said to forgive him. Your father said to forgive them for what they did after Jacob had died. And
Mhm.
he's coming to them in tears. And he's like, you guys don't get it.
Mhm.
It's not you that sent me here. It was God.
Yeah.
So here's the next thing is perception. Can you see it as bigger than your hurt? Can you
Yeah.
perceive your promise as being bigger than the giant that you're about to face? Can you see the grapes rather than the giants?
Mhm.
So if you're looking at where it's taking you to rather than what it took you through, you can survive.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is we don't like pain, so we do
Right?
everything to avoid it and uh to just numb it out. So it's just we especially I feel like more so definitely as men we don't like that feeling of because that's like kind of because I guess like for some like pain is like oh this is like I feel vulnerable like weak
Yeah.
and I don't want to go through that. I don't want to like have a giant that I don't want to have that. So having that mindset is definitely like it goes against what we see in our own human eyes, like this pain. I don't want to go through this. And instead of having the eyes of God to see that the bigger picture of this is just only a small part of the story that I'm gonna let this happen to take you into the next stage of your life.
Right. But what's one of those sayings that we have as men when you're trying to work out and you're trying to get from, let's say, a smaller size and I want to develop more muscle? What is the one saying that we always say in the gym? No pain,
No
no
gain.
gain.
Yeah.
So we say it and we know it, we just don't want to deal with it. But
Mhm.
pain is what's necessary to increase.
Yeah.
It's necessary to take on the muscle. And so either you're going to get hurt or you're going to be the one doing the hurting.
Mhm.
And as I started my discussion with that setting that we had last, there wasn't a person in there that hasn't hurt somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, you're going to hurt somebody and you're
Yeah.
going to want that person to forgive you. But then we get hurt and now all of a sudden it's personal. Why did they
Yeah.
do that to me? But you did something too.
Yeah.
So
And you have to
all of it.
like more so like for me also like more recently it's like I have to be the one. I have to take accountability and I have to face the pain of what I did to that person. I don't want
Yes,
to, but I need to allow God to use my mistakes and goofiness and broken I call it goofiness sometimes.
that's all
Uh
right.
whenever I pop off on somebody and I need to allow him to use that so I can become a better person, become a better version of myself.
That's right.
Because
That's
like as men or just like just as people in general, we don't like to look at that stuff of like you said, we see so much of what everyone else is doing to us that we don't
hmm
see like what we do to other people. So is
Yep.
everybody else is him, is her, it's
hmm And that's
yeah.
what we do. We always look at what somebody's doing rather than, okay, you did some stuff too,
Yeah.
and have you come to grips with what you did.
Yeah.
So we're all going to deal with it, and that's what we need to learn how to find that freedom in forgiving one another, because that's how we're going to grow. As I
Yeah.
said, there's not a person in the Bible, there's not a person that you're going to come in contact that you consider great, having not been through something. Everybody went through some painful experience. That's what makes for a
Yeah.
movie. That's what makes for a great
Yeah.
story, a great book. Who wants to pick up a book and if the story is like, I had a
Oh,
great life and
I
everything was good and nothing ever happened to me. I mean, I don't want to read that. That's
yeah,
boring.
it's like, "Oh, I went to school, I graduated, I got $1 million," and it's just, like, glosses over all, like, the stuff in between.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if that's your storyline, I don't want to talk to you. You had a silver platter, everything was handed to you. But if you could
Mhm.
tell me the grit, if you could tell me how you overcame despite what happened to you, now you got my attention. Now I'm interested. And so God allows us to have those highs and lows in life. You're going to
Mhm.
have this up and down, up and down, up. That's life. That's what that's supposed to look like. When you see that,
Yeah.
you got those, you're getting your heart checked out. It's going like this. The moment
Yeah.
it goes straight, you're dead. So, I just want normal. I just want comfortable. Beep. That's called
But
a
yeah,
flat
that
line.
is like that's true. It's like we do like we're more attracted to like that like
Yeah.
that's just like the
It's a
straight path.
But that's not life. Life has
Yeah.
got so I want to thank God when everything is up here, but can you thank him when it's down here?
It's
So if I
harder.
can learn to thank God when it's here, that's what brings me back up again.
Yeah.
And now I'm back at the valley, and now God's going to let you go back down again. Can you give me a
Mhm.
thank you? So that's why it says in the Bible, in everything, give thanks.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. So I want you to thank me when you're up. Want you to thank me when I'm down, because I'm going to use your down moment to bring you back up.
Mhm.
And in fact, your down moment might just elevate you higher. That's like what a basketball does in the hands of a basketball player.
Yeah.
If you bounce it, as long as your
It
hand
goes
catches it again,
yeah, it goes
it
back.
goes through. But if
Yeah.
you really hit it and let it go,
It goes back up.
depending
Yeah.
on how hard you hit it, that's how high it's going to actually go. Same thing with a person who has an arrow that they're
Mhm.
getting ready to shoot. The longer you pull it back, which is causing stress on that string, when you
Mhm.
release it, that arrow has more trajectory and it's going to move further.
Yeah.
So we need the pain. We need the stuff that goes through in life to take us to who we're supposed to be. I don't
Mhm.
like what I had to endure. Looking back, the stuff I know certain people did to me, but
Mhm.
I'm also grateful for them, because if they didn't do what they did, I wouldn't be who I am.
Mhm.
So I can look back and say, hey, thank you. I can thank uncles. I can thank people who did stuff to me that hurt me really bad.
Mhm.
And do I want to go through that again? No, but it made me.
Yeah.
It helped me to deal with
Yeah.
life. So that now when other things happen in my life, I'm like, yeah, it's no big deal. That's a little thing.
Yeah, and
And I can,
you're able to deal with it with like the what you've gained from that past situation. You can deal with the present situation with that pain that got transformed into strength, and so
yes,
now you can move forward.
exactly. And again, that's where we're turning pressure into power.
Mm.
Can you turn that thing that was trying to crush you, can you allow it to make you a diamond?
I that kind of just I just thought of that too because when you did like that motion, I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
So that's what God is trying to do. You start off like a coal, you're under pressure and you don't
mhm,
like it, but when it comes off, you're transformed.
mhm,
So you're uncut, you're a diamond in the rough. So in
mhm,
order for it to really become something of value, now I got to take you to a jeweler and get it cut up some more.
yeah,
So God allows you to go through more cuttings. And he says, do you trust me? No, I don't like this. But
yeah,
when he's finished, now I got to shine you up and everything. Do you still trust me? I don't. Well, okay, maybe I'm giving it. So you started giving a little bit more. But when he's finished with you, now you're multifaceted.
And now, like, you look at, like, where you are now, but I feel like sometimes, like, we forget that it took a lot of that wrestling and that pressure to get where we are now.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
You had to go through fire. Gold, in order for it to get off all the impurities,
Mhm.
has got to go through fire.
Yeah.
Why is that? So that it's melted and all the stuff that's not supposed to be there comes to the top. It's called dross. So
Mhm.
you can now take something and take it off the surface. And you keep heating it just to keep getting that stuff off,
Yeah.
whether it's gold or whether it's silver. Now, I've been told that a silversmith or a goldsmith, they were asked a question, well, when do you know it's finished?
Mhm.
And the goldsmith and the silversmith both said, oh, that's easy. They said, when I can look at it and I can see my reflection, that's when I know it's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So God is doing the same thing as well. He's saying, well, when am I finished? He says, when I can see my reflection in you rather than me seeing you, that's when he says you're done.
Yeah, and all the things that the spirit is trying to do within us is just it's just so amazing. And I feel like it's something that we don't like think about when, in the midst of pain is like, I only see like this. I feel like we go to the extremes, like we see like the worst pain, and then we see like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, of how sanctified I am now. Then like we don't see like the in between, like, hold on, what happened to get to point A to point B?
Right,
Yeah.
right, right, right. But understand, God's trying to get you to D.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
getting from A to B, but God says, I got more. No, and in fact, I'm going to take you to Z. I'm Alpha and
Yeah.
Omega. So I've got an ending that you can't see right now. So I'm going to take you through your alphabet.
Mhm.
And depending upon where he wants to take him, this is where trust comes in. I have to learn how to trust God. So along the way, he says, you must forgive.
Mhm.
Have to forgive. It's a requirement. So we might ask why. I don't understand why you're doing it. God will just say, just trust me. He will never explain to you why. He won't say
Mhm.
why it happened to you. So you can keep asking all you want. You'll never get the answer. We're coming up on Good
Yeah.
Friday. And even Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me? God never answered. He never
Yeah.
said, well, I'm letting this happen to you because he didn't tell you. You have to trust him. And so his last words on the cross were, into your hands I commend my spirit. So he said
Mhm.
a word of trust. He said, I trust you. And then
Yeah.
he locked his head and he died, and that was it. So but the first thing Jesus said when he got on the cross, if you remember, was, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Mhm.
So he didn't wait till the end to say that. He knew he had to say that after they did all that they did to him, all the beatings, the nailing to the cross, the lifting up, the dropping him into it. While he's being lifted up, he's saying, Father, forgive them.
Mhm.
That's how much he knew that it's necessary. That if he didn't
To
forgive,
get yeah to go through that process then, because that would just kind of like affect like what God would be able to do like
yes,
if we don't forgive. So
exactly. So
yeah.
if he couldn't forgive them for what they were doing to him, and it looked like they knew exactly what they were doing to him, I'm like, well, why? But he wasn't talking from a physical standpoint. He was talking from a spiritual. He said they don't know what they're doing in the spirit. They don't
Mhm.
understand the things that are going on behind the scenes they can't see. And to a
Mhm.
person that is in Christ, especially, you have to understand that if you don't let it go, there are some spiritual implications that you are going to run into if you don't release it, that's holding you back. Things are
Mhm.
in your being that shouldn't be there. And if
Yeah.
you can't let this go, God says, neither can I let go what you just did. That's why he
Yeah.
said in the prayer, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors.
Mhm.
So
Because
as I learn how to forgive, then you can forgive me.
those strangleholds that can sometimes that want to hold us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that prayer is actually a contractual agreement,
Mhm.
that he'll forgive me as I forgive them. The other part is, if you don't forgive them, neither will I forgive you, because you messed up
Mhm.
too. And that's God's whole point. You think you perfect. No, you're not. You messed up too. So because you're messed up, I won't forgive
I'm so sanctified and I
you. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So God is saying, if you want to walk into the next place I want to take you, if you want to move into your future I'm trying to develop you for, you have to let this part of you go.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how bad it is that happened, because life is going to happen. You have to release it. When I've spoken with the women on this type of issue, I've talked to them about the story of Esther.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever get a chance to read it, um, Mordecai was her uncle that was
Mm-hmm.
like a father to her because he was old enough. He took her in and he raised her. Well, Esther's real name was Hadassah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Hadassah just means a plant. But Mordecai began to talk to her and say, you're more than just a plant. You're more than just myrtle. That's what the word really means. It's myrtle plant. You're a star.
Mm.
And so he started calling, you're my bright and morning star. You're my beacon of light. You're my hope. And so she, as a little girl, began to hear through the name Esther. That's what it means. It's a star. So he changed her whole purpose. Now, why do I say that? Because her mother and father were killed under the very empire that eventually she becomes the queen of.
Mm.
So she had that story is critical to forgiveness as well. So we look at the story of Joseph, but her forgiveness had to start with that as well. Her spirit had totally forgiven everything. So here she is marrying Xerxes, who was actually a crazy, ruthless ruler as
Yeah.
king, but she becomes the queen of him, knowing that his people were the ones responsible for my mother and father's death. How do
Mm-hmm.
you deal with that up here if you haven't forgiven them?
Yeah. So she didn't like hold that against her husband in the current situation, as like
Exactly.
where she came from, and then like who she's becoming.
Yep.
Yeah.
But she became a queen because she was able to release her past, all the pain, and she became elevated to that place to not only save herself, but all of her people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she had to be able to let go. She never forgot who she was. She never forgot her past. She just knew how to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's like what forgiveness is about. Like what you said, it's like, you know, not necessarily forgetting about it, but letting it go as you move
Yes,
forward. So.
yes, yes. Now, the other thing is a question, I guess, that comes up as well. How do you forgive and forget?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't forget what they did. And I asked the Lord about that one time before. Well, how do I forget it? He says, well, do it just like I do. You forgive it
Mm-hmm.
again.
Yeah.
Because every time it comes back, you just have to forgive it again and let it go.
Yeah.
That's what Joseph did when I cited that story when his brothers thought, oh, he still remembers. Joseph was crying and said, you guys don't realize I let it go. It's gone. I had to. So even though they brought it up, he forgave it again. I
Mm-hmm.
have to just keep, and that's what God does too. It's not like God gets amnesia. We say he threw it in the sea of forgetfulness. I mean, he's God. He remembers everything, beginning,
Yeah.
forward, right now, future. He remembers everything. So, and then you got Satan who's going to bring up what we did to him.
Oh. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So, how is it that God forgave me? He said it's under the blood. So,
Yeah.
God forgives it every time. Every time it's brought up, he says, I forgave it. I let it go. So, he wants me to be holy as he's holy, do the same thing he did. Every time it comes back, you got to forgive it again.
Yeah. Is that the ongoing process, the 77 times.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it. That's
Yeah.
it. So you get a chance not to just talk about it, you get to walk it.
Mm-hmm.
You get to do it. And as you begin to do it, now you start to see God's promises really working in your life. So holding on to it just holds you down. Letting it go releases you.
Mm-hmm.
So what
Yeah.
you do to it, that's what it's doing to you.
Yeah. But yeah, this is like a good talk. It's really good talk, and I'd like to have you more on the show. I do have to go to a meeting in
Sure.
20 minutes, but yeah, I definitely appreciate you coming on. And oh yeah, you said you had your book with you.
Yes, I do. And in fact, some of the stories I shared, I wrote this book actually back in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been out there on the market for quite some time at Amazon. But what happened, just as a backdrop, I had no inkling of wanting to write a book or thinking about writing a book. I never even thought of myself as an author. But one morning, as I was dreaming, about 2 a.m, I saw myself in the dream, and a bunch of men were sitting around, not doing anything. And in the
Yeah.
dream, I found myself saying, "Why aren't these guys doing anything? Why don't they man up, do something?" And this is what I'm saying. I found myself waking up out of the dream, and I started hearing the Lord speak to me, and he started saying, "Right." I was like, "Right? Right what?" I'm like, "It's 2 a.m. What are you talking about, right?" And so I tried to turn over and go to sleep again. And then I kept hearing "right." I said, "I don't know what to write." And all of a sudden, some words came to me to write. And I said, "Oh, that was pretty good." I sat up again and I wrote these words down very quickly. I took a jot and I said, "That was pretty good," because I know I'll forget it if I don't write this down what I heard. I tried to lay down again, and I heard him say again, "Right." I said, "Okay, this isn't going to
I'm not
stop.
getting sleep tonight.
I can't get it." I got up and I was okay, go down to my computer, and I started and write to men. And that's what I kept hearing. I started writing about what? Manpower. Manpower. Okay, so I started typing it out. And long story short, I ended up with this book. So I ended up with chapter 1. And I'm like, it's now 4 o'clock in the morning after I said, "I don't believe I just wrote a chapter. This is crazy. Where's this coming from?" And so every day I would come back and I was getting a little bit of something, and it ended up being this book that's called Manpower, Dare to Discover Yourself. And this is what, so in fact, the words that I heard come to me that night is what I wrote as like the preface in my book. I'll read that real quick if you don't mind. But here's what I heard. It said, "The gloves are off. No one is watching. Darkness attempts to fill the voids in your life, but light patiently awaits its turn to shine. I see a shadow. Who are you, really?" So that's where it started. I said, "Wow, that was kind of deep." Got it real quick. And it was like, the question was, "Who are you?" And that's where Manpower came up, because most men don't know who we are. And it's a short read. It's not a thick book at all by any means, but it's a pretty powerful book that begins to tear away some things you might have tried to cover, hiding who you are. And it redefines you and refines you to who you are. So you can find it on Amazon. And it's obviously not expensive. It's like $15 with postage and handling. But that's it. I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Yeah. I have to see if Gary has one. I don't know if he does, but I like to read that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. The guys that have read it, they've all said, "Wow, this was life changing." They thought, "Okay, we're just reading it and we'll come back and give you some feedback."
Yeah.
And the ones that told me they've read it, that have come to me, one guy, it took him off of a life where he was headed for the streets, hoodie and everything. He was like, "I was playing on it because my dad wasn't in my life like I needed to." But it helped him to see what a man is supposed to be. And now he's a businessman in Atlanta.
Wow.
And he's also in ministry. And he was so where's the second book? Because I said I'm at the end of the book that I'm going to be working on the second one. So every time he'd run into me, he says, "Where's the second one? Where's the second?"
Yeah.
And that's what I keep hearing. And I just finished the second one. I just finished. It's been like a lifelong endeavor. So I just finished it. It'll be released hopefully by the end of this year.
Okay, cool. I'll look forward to that too. Yeah. When God wakes you up at 2 a.m. to make a
Oh man, that is one scene in my life I'll just never forget. But
yeah.
it was incredible. It was incredible. So I call it a God-breathed book, because I did not have any thought in mind of what I wanted to do with this, but he just put some things in me that said, "You need to share this."
Yeah. But yeah,
So
this has been awesome. Thank you for coming to the podcast and sharing your insights on forgiveness and just sharing how that affects us spiritually and emotionally. This is really, really good. And you're also always welcome back if you ever want to do another one too. Yeah.
Just ask. We'll check my schedule and we'll kind of go from there. But I love sharing, especially with young people, so that you don't have to necessarily go through the things I went through, so that if you at least learn by my mistakes, what you need to do or what I've even been taught,
Hmm.
you can start taking that and really help to keep yourself from falling into a lot of things you don't need to get into.
Yeah, because even like in this doing this podcast, I learned a lot. Yeah,
Cool. That's good.
yeah,
That's good. Well, thank you for
yeah,
having me. I really appreciate it.
yeah. So, I will keep in contact with you, and I'll let you know when this episode goes out too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was great. Thanks a whole lot, Micah.
All right.
All right.
All
I'll
right.
see you.
Bye.